Namaste everyone. Welcome to today's interview with Mr. Abhishek Agashe, a visionary co-founder of Elima. I'm Shivalika representing Renewable India here. With a passion for building sustainable cities and organizations, Mr. Agashe is at the forefront of developing innovative systems and strategies for waste management, circular economies, initiatives, and the recovery of critical raw materials through urban mining. With over 5 years of hands on experience in various fields, including solid waste management, e waste management, industrial recyclables management, and environment consulting, Mr. Agashe brings a wealth of knowledge and insights to the table here. His journey has provided him with a deep understanding of the challenges and solutions required to not only initiate but also scale a waste management business in today's dynamic landscape. Join us as we delve into Abhishek Akash's expertise, exploring his journey, insights, and the transformative impact Elima in making in the quest for a more sustainable future. So, welcome, Mr. Abhishek. How are you today?
I'm good, Shivalika. Thank you so much for having me and telling Elima's story to the world. So, yeah, glad to be here and I'm ready to go. So, we can begin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhishek, for joining us today. Shall we start with the first question?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. So, Mr. Abhishek, we were just wondering about Elima. So, there is a lot of inspiration behind founding this particular company and its mission to create a landfill-free future. So, can you give us more detail about that inspiration and what took you towards Elima here?
Sure. So, basically, we were three or four of us who came together to, ideate on and start this company. All of us come with extensive, experience in the waste management and recycling field. So I'll just give you a quick introduction on the team as well. So we have Mr. Mohit, who's one of my co-founder. He's also the CEO of the company. He comes with around 12 to 13 years of experience, vast experience in leading waste management and recycling initiatives across India. He also has some global exposure when it comes to precious metals refining, and he was actually instrumental in getting a company here in his previous role to set up a precious metals refining facility in India. Kashyap, who's our CCO, he looks after the compliances and internal operations of the company in terms of human resources as well. Again, he comes with around 12 to 13 years of experience, being in the e-waste recycling space since 2010. So around 13 years of experience there. Nagaraj, who's our other co-founder, comes with around 13 years of experience in dry waste operations, especially in non-metal categories like paper products, and plastics. And what we realized was, there was a lot of action going around in terms of circular economy, recycling. There was a lot of talk going on. However, the industry is very complicated, and usually companies were taking two kinds of approaches here in terms of building out, strategies for building a circular economy. So one was a complete infrastructure-based approach where it was companies who were setting up recycling plants or in dry waste, particularly operating across a single category of material. So, companies who are doing plastic waste management within a certain category were not involved in electronics, companies in electronics. So, there was no cross segmentation of companies that was happening. The other approach was completely digital, where there were a lot of initiatives being taken in terms of connecting recycling companies, connecting all governments, and things like that. But through our experience, what we realized was that India is at the cusp where we don't have the necessary infrastructure backed by digital technology, right? So there is no company who's actually taking a hybrid kind of an approach towards building out solutions for the circular economy. And we realized that basically circular economy, if you look at circular economy, it is nothing but reorganizing supply chains, right? So we are in the
Of
business of
course.
actually building out closed loop supply chains. And since most of the outputs that come out of the circular economy are commodities, which are basically metals or plastics, we need a lot of technology intervention in terms of streamlining the operations, commodity pricing algorithms, predictive algorithms for pricing. and enabling convenience to consumers, whether it is businesses or whether it is end consumers, to be able to dispose their products right at the right time, and then building out the infrastructure to be able to vertically integrate this so that we can extract maximum value from this. So Elima is basically one of the first companies who's taking a multi-product approach where we operate across product categories like paper, plastics, and electronics, right? And we are building a vertically integrated solution so that we're able to get access to good quality raw materials at the right price points and in the right volumes. And then we are able to extract high quality resources out of that and channelize it back into the system for manufacturing. So that was the
Okay.
thesis on which Elima was founded.
Oh, very nice. It was very interesting. So I was just wondering, you talked a lot about, and Elima is also based on the circular economy. So we just wanted to know, like Elima has a lot of different types of suites of solutions here. So how does you make sure that you facilitate efficient product, resource, and waste management for businesses of all sizes? So I hope that when we talk about Elima as such doesn't differentiate on the size of the business. Rather, they are more profound, or they are more strategized towards building a circular economy. Doesn't matter the sizes of the business. So, how does these solutions, Elima solutions, make sure that they can facilitate an efficient waste management? So, if you
Sure.
can throw
So
some light on that.
Sure. So when we talk about different stakeholders in the value chain, okay, I'll just divide this question into three parts, right?
Yes.
So if we look at circular economy, like I mentioned, it is nothing but reorganizing supply chains, right? You're
Yes.
basically transitioning away from primary ore extraction or metal extraction into circular building circular supply chain. So we have three primary modes in which we operate, right? The first stage is called the acquisition stage or acquisition of products. This is pertinent to your question where you're saying what kind of stakeholders do we service. Okay.
Sure. Sure.
So typically, if you look at a product, it is used by two or three kinds of subsets that we can call them, right? One is your end consumer, which is you and me, right? We use different products in our house. We use different products on us, wearables, mobiles, laptops, or even packaging, food, everything, right? Then you have small and medium enterprises who are using assets up to say a 50, 100 assets. They are also taking part in the consumption story,
Yes.
but on a smaller scale and generating lesser types of waste
Of
comparatively,
course.
right? And then you have large organizations, you have large manufacturing setups or large corporates um, who are generating multiple waste categories and in larger volume, right? Now, if you look at all three of them, our approach towards this is threefold, right? We have to work on first convenience, right?
Yes.
Today, in a world where we are getting groceries delivered in 10 minutes, right? The waste management story also has to evolve in that way, where we are
Oh,
able to provide services for these stakeholders in a very convenient manner. So, why I said that we operate across product categories is, say, as a consumer or as a business, right? If you are generating five categories of waste, and you have to deal with five different entities to manage each type of waste, right? Then it becomes a question of inconvenience, right? Then the entire story goes for a toss. So we play on the convenience part where we are actually trying to provide multi-category solutions to all subset of consumers as a single stop solution. Now, how do we do that? In this part, infrastructure creation is very critical, right? We need to create hyperlocal infrastructure where we are able to service these businesses and individuals, right, in high dense areas, especially where we are able to provide a convenient solution to them. The second thing is cost, right? We have to focus on the cost of acquisition also. So the closer we are to the point where waste is being generated, we are able to carry out our reverse logistics activities in a very efficient and cost effective manner. Now, this actually sets the tone for the entire operation of waste management that happens after this. Right? If the cost of acquisition of the product, in terms
yes.
of acquiring the product by paying the consumer, where India, we've always seen that you need to pay for anything that has value, right? And it goes
Yes.
back right up to newspapers, which so it's a psychological mindset that Indian consumers, whether it is businesses or individuals, have, where we need to pay for that. So there is already a cost bucket developed there. Now, if
Yes.
you add smaller volumes, higher distances for transportation, the cost of reverse logistics on my first mile cost goes significantly higher, right? So
Yes.
if my cost of acquisition, that is paying the customer for per kg waste, plus cost of reverse logistics first mile is very high, then the process itself becomes inefficient, right? So that is where
Okay.
we play on the cost. And third is the recovery part. Now, what happens here is that as we develop technologies, as we develop infrastructure and R&D facilities to be able to extract higher quality raw materials out of these waste that we collect, right? We are able to pass on that value throughout the value chain, right? So
Okay.
it subsidizes my cost of logistics, it subsidizes my cost of acquisition, and I am able to command a premium on my end product, which I am selling back to manufacturing units, and they are happy to buy it because it matches their requirement. So convenience, cost, and quality. These are the three parameters on which we are working, and that is how we plan to serve all tiers of the customer, whether it is individual, small business, or large business.
Okay, great. Okay. So I was just wondering that you just told us about the individuals also. So when we talk about the individuals, it is basically every household. Do you cover too, or is it along with the government you take the steps for the waste management?
Yeah, so we do work with governments. We do work with a lot of NGOs as well. We ourselves do a lot of collection drives and things like that,
Okay.
right? But in the long run, taking a NGO based or a collection drive based approach is not sustainable, right?
Yes, of
So
course.
what we have to try to do is that we need to what we do is that we basically put the customer base into clusters, right? So high density, low density, and very low density, right? Serving very low density consumers where it is only end customers that are there, right, is very inefficient, and hence governments have to take responsibility for that. Okay,
Okay.
so that is
Okay.
where the government takes place. We collect materials from authorized material recovery facilities from the government, or we
Okay.
ourselves are also operating a material recovery facility. For example, in Shamshabad in Hyderabad, we have a material recovery facility. We are doing
Yes.
around
Yes.
5 metric tons per day.
Oh.
We started this facility as a private initiative where we were serving businesses, right? We were only
Okay.
serving businesses. We were not serving the end consumer. Now, these are low
Okay.
density clusters. These are low density clusters where there is not a lot of residential activity that happens, right?
Okay.
So going to each and every household and collecting waste was becoming very inefficient. Like I mentioned, my cost of reverse logistics was very high.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But since we are operating this center and our recovery rates were very high, the government themselves approached us and they
Oh,
said,
wow.
okay, look, can we classify this center as a authorized material recovery facility for our
Yes.
corporation?
Yes.
And we will take care of the first mile logistics, drop the material at your place, and you do what you do best is you recover
Okay.
these materials and channelize them for recycling, right? So it's a multi-pronged approach. It's not a one solution fits all strategy. So we are
Okay.
very segmentative about that. However, going forward, as we build out infrastructure in these areas, right? Once the infrastructure is built, over a couple of years, it just makes sense for us to service the end consumers as well. So it's our phase two strategy, right? So right now we work with governments also to answer your question, and we have our own supply chain. It also depends on the type of product that the consumer wants to dispose. So if it is high value electronics, right? That's why again coming back to the point of why we do multi categories instead of just going and picking up paper or cardboard from a house. If they're also disposing mobile phones, laptops, or a washing machine, then my
Yes.
cost gets subsidized across the product category, right? And then we are able to serve that. So the
Yes.
larger vision is that larger vision is that Elima should have a bin in each house or each society where we are doing day-to-day collections through a hub and spoke model, and the same infrastructure will serve the big clients also because the material is the
Yes.
same, right? Cardboard is the same, whether it is being generated at any consumer place or it's just the quantity and the quality. So we are working on how to scale this, and we are very confident that in the next 3 to 5 years, at least in the large 3 to 4 metro cities in South India, Elima's presence will be quite ubiquitous in terms of managing waste in general. Also, I would like to give you a very corollary point to this, right? Circular economy and waste management are actually opposite of each other,
Yes. True. True.
and it's a psychological thing also. When you say waste, the
Yes.
mindset, the way to look at it is different. Newspaper is
Yes.
also waste. Anything after use is waste. But do you look at newspapers as waste? No. Because there is it's not because a monetary value is assigned to that. It's because a
Yes.
psychological value is assigned to that. That newspaper is equal to knowledge, is equal to goddess Saraswati, for
Yes.
example, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's why you will never throw a newspaper in the dustbin.
Of
Vice
course.
versa,
Of
you
course.
will never throw a mobile phone into the dustbin
Of course.
because you paid a high value to acquire that product. But a
Yes.
battery from a remote control or a AC, you will throw that into the bin because that costs one
Yes.
rupee or 5 rupees, and economically that doesn't make sense to you. So
Yes.
psychological training for people is also a crucial part of this, and that is why, like I mentioned, we do a lot of awareness sessions, activities, collection drives, where we have to sensitize people towards looking at these things as resources and not as waste. The moment you start looking at anything as waste, then it's out of sight, out of mind,
Of
right?
course.
So that's our entire. So
So,
it's a multi-pronged approach that we need to take, right? It's
so
not just about development.
actually, Mr. Abhishek, I never thought that psychology plays a very important part in waste management. That is a very interesting point that you have put. And also, you talked about a lot about end-to-end waste management solutions that Elima provides. So, when I was just going through the website, I read a very interesting term: environmental sustainability as a service. So that is quite interesting term that was there on your website. So I want to know about it, and how does it provide an end-to-end management solutions for the consumers?
Absolutely. So you heard of SaaS, right? Software as a service, right? It's
Yes,
it's
yes,
basically
yes, yes,
basically the intention of why SaaS was born was to optimize operations and basically to reduce headache of
yes,
organizations in managing their day-to-day tasks, right? So behind ESAS, or environmental sustainability as a service, or recycling service as recycling as a service, as our aim is, like I mentioned before, to provide a one-stop solution to organizations where they are able to track, manage their entire waste value chain, right till the point of end consumption, and they get complete visibility. They are able to manage everything. So where they require, say, five resources to manage it today, we our plan is to bring it down to one, and reduce the time taken per employee in a corporate to manage waste, so that it can be used. He can that resource can be used for better productive things that the business is engaged in. So
yes,
our intention here is to provide a dashboard uh, backed by a service. So we are not an aggregator, right? So it's not that we'll give you software and then somebody else will come and operate the waste management service part of it, right? That's what most people are doing.
yes,
We provide service first, and based on our service, we are building a dashboard which companies can use to map their entire waste, right? So we are a full stack in terms of technology. If you look at it, we are a full stack service provider. The technology interface for the user is basically to manage, map, and track their entire waste,
of
whatever
course,
category it is, right till the point, from the point of collection, right till the end point where it is being
yes,
channelized either for recycling or waste to energy or other forms of disposal, right, which are
yes,
environmentally sustainable. And our aim and mission is, see, what happens is that with the platform, one of our main intentions is also there is not a lot of data available to organizations on what exactly is happening, right?
yes,
Usually organizations work in silos, right? Like the facilities guys will take care of managing the waste, but the purchase and procurement guys will take care of the disposal process in terms of commercial.
yes,
Then you have your ESG or EHS teams who take care of the compliances, right? And
yes,
today, waste landscape, and thanks to government of India, like a very creditable, that a lot of policies have come into place. So
yes, yes,
corporations have to follow a lot of regulation in terms of their waste disposal. So that again becomes a headache because they are not updated day to day on what is happening, because they are focusing on their business, right? So
of
through
course,
our portal, we are able to meet their compliance requirements as well through the portal, right? That we are building. So currently we are doing it
yes,
offline. We are in the process of building out a portal. So they don't need to spend and get penalized, even though they're taking the right actions. They're disposing their waste through Elima, but they are not managing their compliance as well, right? That
yes,
again
yes,
becomes an issue for them. So it is basically ease of disposal, mapping, tracking, and traceability of the waste, and managing compliance. So these three blocks we are putting together and trying to create a dashboard where waste management just becomes a 5-minute activity for one person within an organization.
okay. Oh wow, okay, that is quite interesting. So you have catered to each and every single aspect also of the whole chain. It's quite interesting, Mr.
Yeah.
Abhishek. So my next
Thank you so much.
question is related to extended producer responsibility, which is a very critical aspect of environmental sustainability. So I wanted to know, so how does Elima's unified platform, that is EPR obligations across various sectors like e-waste, plastics, tires and batteries, so how do you make sure that it is all streamlined?
Yeah. So let's just dial back to what extended producer responsibility actually is and where this law actually came from and why was it implemented, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
again, like I mentioned, one thing is we need to really give it up to the government and Central Pollution Control Board and Ministry of Environment and Forest that India has adopted EPR as a policy even before the United States or United Kingdom have adopted
Yes.
it, right? So in terms of policy, the government is very clear that look, we want to establish world-class policies that enable a circular economy in the country and manage waste efficiently, right?
Yes.
The aim of extended producer responsibility, according to me, is actually twofold, right? One is it's based on the polluter pay principle. Okay, so companies who are manufacturing products, putting them out in the market, right, earning profits from that, there is a added responsibility for these companies that they need to enable the reverse supply chain to be able to collect these products back, get it to authorized recyclers, get it recycled, right, mitigate their EPR responsibility. And now we are seeing in plastics also, or in batteries also, that they're going one step further and saying that look, it's not only about collecting the materials, right? It's also about reusing these recycled materials into your primary products. So that
Yes.
completes the entire loop. If you just go back to what I said the last couple of questions, that if my end product, any recycler, the end product that he manufactures, if that gets a very good value in the secondary market or in the supply chain market, automatically the money trail it flows downstream, and we'll be able to optimize each and every
Yes.
stakeholder or the entire value chain, right? So EPR is basically that, right? Where first part is you enable the collection and proper recycling, and second part is that you should be able to reuse these products. Now,
Yes.
EPR is also very complicated, right? Every each and every product category. Now, if you look at plastics, there are four categories of plastics itself,
Yes.
right? Category one, which is your rigid plastics, which is basically your detergent bottles or your soda bottles or water bottles, things like
Yes.
that, right? Category two is all your films, basically all the packaging and wrapping, flexible plastics, right? That you
Yes.
use. Category three is your MLP, which is your chips packet, chocolate packets, which have multiple layers of plastic packaging. And the fourth category
Yes.
now they've recently introduced is compostable plastic, right? So now if you look at a producer or a brand, right, who's selling multiple products in the market, they are using plastics across their entire production chain, like for pre-consumption, which they use in the manufacturing stage, and post-consumption, which they use for the primary or tertiary, secondary packaging for their products, right?
Of course.
So again, now for a company, say who's manufacturing chocolates, it's not very viable that they set up an entire team just to look after their EPR, where they take care, they go to the market, they collect the material, they channelize it to a recycler, they ensure that the
Yes.
recycling is happening as per the policies, they get their certificates, right? It's a very tedious and it's a supply chain job. So what we do here is we enable all the brands, whether it is across plastic, electronics, tires, or batteries, where we go to
Yes.
them and just like our ESAS platform, we say that look, we'll give you a one-stop solution since we're operating across categories. And being a recycler ourselves, we have a unique insight into the actual cost of collection, the actual cost of
Yes.
recycling, the value of end products, and things like that. And we have a very vast supply chain that we've built over the last 10 to 12 years that we've been in this field, where we are able to collect, channelize, get it recycled, get all the documentation, and do the compliances for all the brands. So it's not only about fulfilling the EPR obligation, we actually help them right from the point of where they need to be registered as a producer, brand owner, importer, or a recycler on the CPCB portal, to filing their annual returns, even tasks like invoice uploading and managing their complete EPR fulfillment also. So it's
Of
basically
course.
just like our corporate partners use us as a one-stop solution for waste management. Brands use us as a one-stop solution to mitigate all their EPR obligation, and we do it with the highest focus on compliance, since this is a compliance issue for brands.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that is very interesting. So basically, when we talk about EPR has got a lot of the initiatives, different types of portal registrations are there. So you take care of all the details, right? If I'm not
Everything.
wrong.
So any brand, big or small, or any importer, any producer, or even recyclers partner with us.
Yes.
Once they come with us, we help them through the entire value chain, entire
Wow.
processes, compliances, fulfillment, everything. They don't need to go to anyone else once they come
Oh,
to
that
Elima.
becomes very,
And
very
we,
easy
and we
for
do
them
it.
then.
Sorry.
I was saying that it becomes very easy for them. So it is something, it is also a motivation for them because it is so easy. They just have to register with you and everything you take care of it.
Absolutely. And we have dedicated teams for EPR. We have a dedicated compliance team. We have dedicated fulfillment teams. We have
Wow.
dedicated teams for doing awareness for on behalf of the brands. We do a lot of awareness sessions on behalf of our producers. And I'm very happy to say that in the lab, we've been operational for 2 years, right, Elima? But our customer attrition rate is zero. So all the customers who come with us on day one and are getting with us for their EPR fulfillment, none of them have left us. So even that just shows that our customers trust us, and there is no issue with them. So they can be very free. They just give us their work, and we make sure that it's done, and it's done
Oh,
on
wow.
time, and it's done at the best cost.
That's really interesting. That is something that I've actually come across this for the first time when everything from starting to the end, everything is taken care by the company. So that's quite
Absolutely.
interesting. Okay, so
Thank
last question here, Mr. Abhishek, is I because when we think about renewability, we think about waste management, sustainability. This particular industry is a bit scattered, and also now the government is taking lots of initiatives here for renewable energy, for waste management, for different types of things, so that the country at such can be put on the map of the sustainability goals. So I wanted to know, how does Elima make sure that the future of country as well as the company itself is actually a very bright, the impact, the result is very bright. So how does Elima make sure that it also has its impact on such a future?
Sure. So, see, renewable energy is actually going to play a very critical role in the circular economy industry as well, right? I'll just give
Yes.
you an example, right? If you look at a product, the way it's manufactured, especially let's look at metals, for example, right? Uh, if you look at the ore extraction or the material extraction that happens in mining,
Yes.
75% of the total effort is basically energy, and around 25% is labor. So extraction of ores or mining is a very energy intensive process, right? As
Yes.
opposed to if you look at recycling, right? 25% energy consumption, 75% manpower, right? So it's flipped, it's reversed. So you're generating more employment and you're using less energy. Now, because you're using less energy, you can use renewable energy sources to power these operations
Of
since the
course.
energy requirement is low, right? So in renewable energy, actually in circular economy, it is said that it will be a large part of how the industry shapes up. I'll just give you some interesting statistics, right? Like
Yes. Yes,
if you look
please.
at steel, right? If you look at steel, steel basically consumption of steel basically shows you how well an economy is doing, right? And
Yes.
now, if you look at our government's focus, we are building it's creating infrastructure is the focus where steel is going to play a very important role, right?
Yes.
But steel ore mining, right, is very energy intensive. Like I said, it is also very polluting, right? That's the second thing. And what is
Yes.
happening is today, because there is over mining of resources, whether it's copper, aluminium, or ore, iron ore, uh, the quality of the ore is also reducing. So we have to look at it from that perspective, right? Like what you could mine, say, 20 years ago or 40 years ago, the
Of
quality
course.
of the ore is reducing. So you have to
Yes.
go deeper, and the quality of the ore that is being generated is lower. So to get the same output, now I am going to have to mine maybe double or triple, right? So my energy
Yes.
requirement is going to go up significantly, right? Then it's also metals in general are very energy intensive, right? Like if you look at at a global scale, this is UN's data. Basically, the metals industry, metal production industry itself accounts for around 7 to 8% of the CO2 emissions globally, right? So one of the ways that you can offset this is through scrap metal recycling, right? Recycling, as I mentioned, is very less energy intensive, so you can use
Yes.
scrap metals to manufacture newer products. However, there are some issues in that also, where to get very high quality steel, only scrap recycling is not enough, because there are some contaminants that come in, such as copper accumulation and things like that.
Yes.
But now what is happening is that the technology for the furnaces is also changing. So we are seeing that hydrogen is being touted as one great reductant that can be used in the manufacturing process or recycling process, to manufacture steel, to manufacture aluminum, things like that. And also there is a possibility that recycling of the steel that is going to happen, the accumulation is going to be much higher, and that will play a bigger role. So the amount of recycling input will increase, and the ore reduction will decrease. It will never become zero. Mining will never become zero, because you will always need a certain percentage of virgin ore or virgin material to maintain the quality. But we have to focus on the stock and flow of the recycling. So that is one where I think renewable energy will have to play a very large role in steel production and metal production. That's on the pre-consumption story, where products are manufactured.
Yes. Yes.
Second is solar, which is basically your consumption of energy. So they
Yes.
have longer lives. We've seen prices of solar fall 50% year on year. Right, today a watt is much cheaper than what it was even 2 years ago. Right.
Yes.
So adoption of solar is going to be very very high. The government is also pushing for it. A lot of policies being built around individual usage of solar as well. But this is going to lead to a large amount of solar panel waste that's going to come out, right?
Of course.
So the circular economy industry has to catch up and say that, look, can we recycle or reuse these materials to manufacture new solar panels, and we can bring it into a closed loop. And fortunately, solar is comparatively a newer industry in India, right? It's 20,
Yes.
25 years old maybe. So we
Right.
still have an opportunity to make it circular, because before things go out of control, right? So that is where also I see that renewable energy and circular economy go hand in hand. And the third part is obviously the consumption story, where battery energy storage, where circular economy will play a critical role in accelerating renewable energy adoption. So if you look at lead acid batteries today, I think India today itself has around three recycling capability of around 3.5 million metric tons of lead
Wow.
acid batteries.
Okay.
Recovery is very high, and a lot of secondary lead is now being used completely to manufacture lead acid batteries, right? And
Yes.
lead acid
Oh.
batteries are not going to go away, right? They are going
Yes.
to be there, because they are also evolving in technology. If
Yes.
you look at
Yes.
lithium ion, it's still a very nascent industry. EV adoption in India is low, but it will increase, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of companies, including we are also making some strides now towards battery and solar waste recycling.
Oh.
We are taking
Okay.
up some R&D efforts there, but it's also a big geopolitical issue, right? Like today, if you look at any
Yes.
government's policy, or if you read between the lines in India's battery waste management policy, also none of the materials that are being used in India are now allowed to be exported outside, raw material. So the message on the wall is clear, right? Because
Yes.
global supply chains, we have seen what happened with Russia and Ukraine. We've seen
Yes. Yes.
what's happening with China, Taiwan, right?
True.
So
True.
governments are now becoming very, very focused on ensuring that raw materials for energy production, consumption, and storage are available in the own country, so that we are not susceptible to geopolitical activity.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you
Yes.
look at India's policies, also it's going in that way. So I
Yes.
think in terms of energy storage and energy generation, circular economy is actually going to play a very, very large role
Okay.
in powering the renewable energy story of India. Again,
Yes.
the industries need to operate together and not in silos.
Of
So,
course.
recycling very much depends on how the product is manufactured in the first place, right?
Yes.
So, producers or brands that are manufacturing batteries, manufacturing panels, need to engage with companies like ours and say that, look, let's jointly develop solutions
Yes.
for this, and let's do it from day zero, right? So that when the product becomes waste, right, it can be 7 8 years for a EV battery or 25 years for a solar panel. We are ready with the
Yes.
necessary technology and infrastructure to process it,
Yes.
give it back to them, and they save on cost instead of buying virgin raw material. So I
Of
think it's a
course.
win-win. It's just that the industries need to talk more, and
Yes.
there needs to be more dialogue together.
Yes, yes. Oh, that is very interesting. Thank you so much for so many points that you have given. and a totally different perspective towards waste management. So of course the industries, they need to shift their focus towards sustainability, adopting sustainable practices. That is a need of the hour. And the government and company like Elima, they are doing an incredible job towards creating a circular economy. So that's quite applaudable. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and your time here. And it was a very insightful session. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek, for your time.
Thank you, Shivalika, so much, and thanks for all the nice things that you said about Elima. So
Yeah, thank you.
hopefully these words, they encourage us to work even harder,
Yes,
and
of
hopefully
course,
you will
of
see
course.
us making a lot of strides in the circular economy space in the
Yes,
coming
of
years.
course, we will be proud to be in this journey of yours, and
Thank you
it
so
is a
much.
really proud moment right now also to get associated with you through this interview. So thank you
No,
so
and
much.
it's great, that journalists like you and your publication and things like that, uh, they're putting out these stories. They're putting out the story of renewable energy, putting out the story of circular economy, so it reaches a wider audience. So you guys are
Yes,
also playing an important role in sensitizing, like we spoke about the psychology, right? When
correct.
consumers read your articles, they will get some knowledge. Ki, boss, फेंकना
Of
नहीं है
course.
कचरे में, we
Yes.
have to give it to. So great work to all you journalists also.
Thank
You're going
you.
to play
Thank
a very big role in actually shaping the future of the
you.
country when it comes to sustainability.
Thank
So
you. Thank
kudos
you
to
so
you
much.
and best of
And the
luck.
best part is, I think, in this line is you get to learn so much about the future of the country, and
Absolutely.
so many different things. Because in with every interview that I take, with every article that I write, I get so many different insights, and this has become made me more smarter, I think, so somewhere down the line.
Thank you.
So
And like you
let's
said, the future. So climate tech is definitely the next
yes,
biggest industry that's going to come
yes,
out in the world.
yes, yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Shivalika,
thank you,
for your
Mr.
time.
Abhishek. Thank you so much.
Thank you.